Real quick, Sonny. Just a couple of updates from joint practice between the Niners and the Titans. Again, Mike Evans practicing. Christian McCaffrey in bare feet is not. Nick Bosa not practicing. There's been 4 scrums in the first 10 minutes in a joint sparring match. One started by Renardo Green, a hit on Wan'Dale Robinson. That's per Cam Inman. So lots of fighting so far down in Santa Clara.
And that's a staple. That's a staple. By the way, the other thing is, and I don't want to talk about him, but you know who's got the most pressure on him this year for the Niners?
Don't say Piñeiro.
I tell you what. I don't know how you look at this. I don't know how you look at these things.
You're so weird, dude.
No, I don't know how you look at these things. But I got news for you. Eddie Piñeiro is not going to have as good a year as he had last year.
Wow. Do I know this guy?
There's just no doubt.
You're the only person that cares about how good the kicker is.
How many games did he win him last year?
Probably
Think about that.
Well, look, having a good kicker is an awesome thing to have. Steiny, he's top 10 all time in field goal percentage. What he did last year was not a crazy anomaly. I think he missed 1 kick. It's really good, but he had another year where I think he only missed 2 kicks. He's got to work on his extra points, but Eddie, he's money.
He was 28 for 29. The only field goal he missed was like a 57-yarder. I bet you he doesn't go 28 for 29 this year.
So you're saying Piñeiro's an approve-it year?
Piñeiro is...
Isn't that crazy, though? They signed that guy off the street.
It is unreal.
I mean, they had Jake Moody, who they spent a 3rd-round pick on. This guy just walks in from who knows where, doesn't miss a single kick.
Sports, man.
Yes, you're right, Goo.
All right, so the 49ers trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, and Kyle Shanahan, starts using him as a starter. And I got to believe that, in general, he thought Garoppolo was a better pocket passer than kind of improviser. All right, so now I do believe that the first thing Shanahan needs out of a quarterback is a smart pocket passer. All right, so he got whatever he could out of Garoppolo. And then at a certain point, whether it was injury or performance, Kyle said, well, he's not a great pocket passer, and he doesn't have legs, so, I think we could upgrade. So then they draft Trey Lance. And so clearly when they drafted Trey Lance, how soon do you think they realized he cannot throw the ball out of the pocket?
Pretty quickly.
They must have, right?
Not the way they wanted.
So he didn't even get a crack at it. And in fact, the crack at it he got, he ran 12 times and then got hurt in that one game.
Sure.
So clearly Shanahan never trusted Trey Lance. Okay, then enter Purdy. I think of those quarterbacks, Purdy's got the best pocket presence, and he does have some quick feet. So, I get why Purdy has reached the point that he has, but I also wonder if what does Kyle Shanahan want Brock Purdy to do better?
Take care of the ball.
All right.
Probably, yeah.
And I think that's got to be kind of the only thing. So if Purdy can take care of the ball, he's going to be good or good enough. I just feel like when you say, well, will Purdy be blamed for a bad season? I think Purdy will make some throws that are awful, and we'll all be able to say they're awful throws. But I just Kyle Shanahan, for the most part, doesn't allow his quarterbacks to be awful. You know what I mean? He'll then keep it safe for him, or he'll run the ball more. So, how many quarterbacks under Kyle Shanahan have truly stunk?
A few.
I mean, Mullins and Beathard, I'll probably give you.
Well, your boy, the astronaut, was my guy, Dobbsy. Yeah, he stunk. I think he started 1 game for the Niners.
The bottom line is, if you have a quarterback like Brock Purdy, there's less pressure on you than if you have a quarterback like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Matt Stafford. And there's something about Shanahan where, I'm not saying he likes that and that's what he wants, but those are just the guys he's happened to coach at quarterback.
Well, I think if Kyle Shanahan could take Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, he absolutely would.
Okay.
But he can't.
Okay, but hold on. And I guess that's what I want to ask.
But he can't.
Right. But those quarterbacks have now established themselves on other teams, and they are elite quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. So, again, if one of those came on the 49ers, do I think Kyle could coach him? Yes. And I think he'd look at Burrow and he'd say, okay, I know what I can do with Burrow. I know what I can do with Lamar Jackson. I'm more interested in how he would have developed, or if he could develop a quarterback to that extent who comes, let's say Trey Lance had potential. Could he have developed a quarterback like Trey Lance into something dynamic?
I don't know. In all likelihood, probably not.
And kind of how would it have looked?
Well, but the fact of the matter is, son, he didn't need to, because I think that Kyle Shanahan would have taken more time with Trey Lance, but they also found Brock Purdy a year or two later. So they didn't need to worry about what we're doing with Trey Lance. It didn't matter. They were in a win-now window. They happened to find the last pick in the draft that was good enough to help them win games. And by the way, had to wait till the other two guys got hurt. It wasn't as if they just gave him the job right out of the gates. He took advantage of it, and that made Trey Lance expendable. Also, Jimmy G. But like you brought up Lamar Jackson. And actually, I think the way that Kyle Shanahan used Trey Lance is exactly why he could have coached Lamar Jackson his rookie season. He didn't trust Trey Lance to throw the football. That's it. Just from how he used him, that's the way I read it. Neither did John Harbaugh. I'm looking right now at Lamar Jackson's game logs from his rookie season. His first start in the NFL, he ran the ball 26 times.
How many yards?
120. But the point is, he threw the ball his rookie year, Lamar did, just as much as he ran the ball, because they felt like that was the most effective way to use the quarterback. And then the next year, when Lamar Jackson went to the lab, he went from a run-first quarterback to the MVP of the league. Now, I don't think that Trey Lance was going to make that sort of leap to go from a guy who was primarily run-first to leading the league in touchdowns and winning 13 games. But the point is, I think that Kyle Shanahan could have developed a quarterback like that. And he just is trying to maximize guys' skill sets. Brock Purdy's skill set is not that of Lamar Jackson. He's not as dynamic of a player. But that doesn't mean that Kyle Shanahan wouldn't want a guy like that.
Yeah, no, I think he would want a guy like that right now. I would just, although Kyle would probably tell you, what do you think I'm doing with Brock Purdy? Like, I'm developing Brock Purdy. And I've allowed Brock Purdy to be, let's say, a top 12 quarterback, where he would have never been a top 12 quarterback if he'd have been on another team. This is Brian Baldinger on Shanahan and Purdy, and basically their pairing at coach and quarterback.
I mean, what Kyle did with that roster and the injuries last year, I mean, we marveled about it all year and then all off season. But that's what a great coach can do. Nobody knew Jake Tonjes before, the injury, and he stepped up. And look, I remember 3 years ago when Dominic Pooney came in as a third-round pick. He won the job, and he's been a rock at right guard. You don't know who's the next guy who's going to be like that. He's their Grace Abel. He's just been, that's consistent. And so, like, they still, we got to look. He's a new defensive coordinator and a new way of doing things on that side of the ball. And Saleh did an unbelievable job last year of just playing guys and plugging holes and all that kind of stuff, and guys off the street and putting them in the lineup and getting them all to play extremely hard, being productive. So I wouldn't bet against that combination that you just discussed.
Well, not betting against them doesn't mean that you believe they can.
Doesn't mean you're betting on them.
Right. It doesn't. It doesn't mean you're betting on them. 888-957-9570. We're talking 49ers right now. They are joint practicing with the Tennessee Titans. No Bosa, no McCaffrey. Mike Evans is out there, though, in full pad. So he's taken part in the joint practice. And then, of course, the 49ers play Tennessee on Thursday in the first preseason game. I don't think we know anything about who may or may not play. But I got to believe the 49ers are going to be more cautious than aggressive in this preseason, and I think we're kind of already seeing that, Evan.
Well, it also looks like the Niners defense might be a little more aggressive than they were last year because, and again, this is just from tweets and reading the reports, but for example, this is from Mayoko of NBC Sports Bay Area. 49ers defense, they haven't made a play, and they're instigating scuffles after nearly every whistle in their joint practice against the Titans. So they sounds like they're more interested in fighting than competing right now. I mean, like, that doesn't worry me, but I think it's interesting. I also think it's, like, Robert Saleh was a guy that I felt like embodied toughness. And who knows, maybe Raheem Morris is saying, guys, like, challenge him, try and beat him up. You know, we're going to try and knock guys' heads off this year. It's football. It's a violent game. But I do think it's interesting that from what I'm reading, it's like there's 4 scuffles in the first 10 plays, and after every play, they're trying to make a play on the guy, not the ball. Like, that doesn't sound like a Robert Saleh defense, and maybe that's where Raheem Morris is going to stand out.
You know what that...
Dre Greenlaw's back.
You know what I think of when I think of that? Who started the skirmishes? The 49ers did?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Why?
Because that tells me they may be, maybe they're a little overmatched. That's when frustration comes.
Against the Titans?
Maybe.
Well, and it's tough, too, because I almost feel like the way that the Niners approach preseason, that these joint practices are more important than the preseason games, because you're going to see a lot of second and third stringers. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't expect Trent Williams to be out there. Nick Bosa's not there today. He's certainly not going to play on Thursday night at Levi's. So you're not going to see any of the big boys probably until week 1. Purdy might play a series in one of these preseason games like he did last year. And if he does, it'll be the last week against the Raiders. So these are the practices. What was it? Was it last year that they scrimmaged the Broncos? And
I think 24?
Okay, there was... We were down at Laughing Monk. I just remember, I think it was Shasky and Bonte coming in and talking about how they just looked like they were completely manhandled.
That's right.
By the Broncos defense.
That's right. I remember that now.
And in a way, like, that to me that's news. That means more to me than, them fighting guys.
Yeah. This is, and here's like the other thing is I feel like, and the Warriors have a little of this, like, the names on the 49ers roster, they're impressive. McCaffrey, Kittle, Bosa, Evans, Purdy, Pearsall, Williams. Like, those guys are, like, they're legitimate names. But I haven't heard anybody talk about something like this. This is Jason LaConfort of the NFL Network. And he was talking about some legitimate on-field, concerns and pluses of the Niners. But listen to what he said.
When you talk to people who advanced scout the 49ers, they point out there's not a lot of speed, there's not a lot of twitch, and there's no substitute for that. You can try to scheme guys open, you can scheme up yak yards after catch, but there's nobody who's going to run for them the way Ricky Pearsall could have run for them, and Ricky Pearsall's not going to play football for them again this year, and he's barely played football since they took him in the first round to try to diversify the attack. They thought they'd fold him in with Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk went AWOL on them. Brandon Ayuk's still mired in a contract battle with them. Brandon Ayuk's never going to play football for them again.
Team speed. Where does Mike Evans fit in to that right now?
Well, it's not going to make you any faster.
Okay.
It makes you bigger.
Okay.
He allows you to win more 50-50 balls, which people are, pissed that Brock throws, and maybe this will turn some of those interceptions into touchdowns. But he's right. They're not a fast team. They got younger, and I think, he didn't bring up Stribling, who runs a 4.3. He's fast, and he's supposed to be a burner, can help you take the top off. But he's right that last season, their fastest player was D. Winters, who they traded this offseason. In terms of peak speed on field in game, their fastest player was a linebacker. So that's a problem. And it's why I found the summer interesting with the choices they made to sign certain guys, because it's like the last 2 off seasons, John Lynch has talked about getting younger and getting faster. And they haven't really done that. They went out and signed Mike Evans, and they got Dre Greenlaw, and they brought back Deebo Samuel. That's not getting younger or getting faster. So I can understand why La Canfora, and it sounds like he's just, talking about what other scouts have discussed with the Niners.
Right.
But
right, and you're not going to put Stribling in there yet because he hasn't played a game.
Well,
he may be that
him.
guy. Who knows?
But there's a lot of pressure on him to be that guy now because Pearsall's out. I'm not saying he's your number one receiver by the end of the year, but De'Zhaun Stribling has got a lot of pressure on him. There's expectations on his ability to stretch defenses and just be a different kind of weapon for this football team that we haven't seen. I mean, I'm trying to remember the last. It might have been like the most dynamic player in recent memory is Deebo Samuel.
Right.
The problem is it was 4 years ago.
I mean, I think Stribling's very interesting because he's a different kind of receiver, and they're obviously short on wide receivers without Ayuk and Pearsall. So I was looking at there was one receiver last year, one rookie receiver that had 1,000 receiving yards, Tet McMillan, Carolina. Is there any way, maybe not because he's going to be a superstar, but because of the situation he's in, that Stribling could end up having that big a role for this team, even knowing that, Shanahan, like a lot of coaches, can be tough on rookies? I mean, what role do you expect him to have?
I think he's facing the same expectations, similar expectations to Yaxel Lendeborg, where their teams are in dire need of what they offer. The Niners need a fast, physical, young weapon on the outside. And I don't know if Stribling can be that guy, but he's the only one equipped to do it, just like the Warriors. Okay, Moody and Butler are both out. You need a wing.
Yep.
You need to get younger. You need a dynamic player on both ends. I don't know if Lendeborg can be that guy, but they need him to be. So I think the Niners and the Warriors are in similar spots where they're looking at these two rookies, and out of necessity, those guys are going to play, and they're probably going to put up numbers. But throughout the year, I think it's going to be difficult to evaluate how good they actually are. Who knows? And maybe one of them pops and they propel their teams towards a lot of wins. But I think we're going to be in a spot where each week we're playing the two scoreboard game with how good was De'Zhaun Stribling versus how are the Niners as a whole. Because I got to be honest, if Stribling is your number one by the end of the year, I'm assuming the season didn't go very well. If the Niners are going to have a dynamic wide receiver room, he'll be a part of it, but Mike Evans has to be your number one.
Yeah, I feel like Stribling's a guy that doesn't necessarily have to be great for 15 games, but he's got to make some plays over the course of the season that kind of impact a game and impact winning. This is Matt Barrows of The Athletic, and he's talking about De'Zhaun Stribling and what he brings to the table and how much he might play this year.
He's a strong guy. He's a good blocker. He's good in tight spaces, and that's been sort of the revelation over these first 10 practices, that when he's in the middle of the field, when he's got Upton Stout draped all over him. So he plays out of the slot, what the 49ers call their F position, which means he's going up against Stout quite a bit. And Stout is a very, very hands-on, feisty player. He's had a really good camp to this point. But even with Stout all over him, he's been making catches. So I think that bodes well. The big difference, the reason why Juwan Jennings was a 7th-round pick way back in 2020 and Stribling is a very early 2nd-round pick, is that Stribling's also really fast. And so the 49ers are hoping that combination of sort of gritty catches and playing out of the slot, maybe wriggling out of the tackle, means that he's going to have a lot of yak yards this year.
All right, that was Matt Barrows of The Athletic. And, he's a guy I'm interested to watch play because on draft night, everybody thought the 49ers reached. And now here it is 3 months later, and everybody says, no, this guy looks like he's going to be pretty good, and I want to see which one it is pretty much.
Well, I think that because the Niners have a lot of aging players or injured guys at their skill position spots, I mean, there's there's potential for Stribling to be the most exciting offensive player at a non-quarterback position. You know, McCaffrey's established, and hopefully he's good, but he doesn't really have that burst, like that acceleration that he did a few years ago. On the outside, Mike Evans, he hopefully has some highlight reel catches and goes up and, mosses a couple of DBs. But if you're looking at guys that are going to get the ball and do something with it, much in the way, it's why I loved watching Deebo Samuel. 21, 22, parts of 23, there were just these game-breaking plays where he's running and it's like the hairs on the back of his neck and he's weaving through guys and he's making people miss. And Stribling's the only one I think on this team that has the ability to do that. And so it's good to hear Barrows talking about it, but Stribling has something that's potentially electric, potentially entertaining. And the Niners, as good as they were of a team last year, Steiny, they didn't have a bunch of those dudes that you were looking at every single week and saying, I wonder what he's going to do this week.
Yep.
I wonder if he's going to be able to break one. They just they put their points up. They got off the field on third downs. They were a solid team. They took advantage of mistakes, and they won football games. Stribling does have some wow factor to him. At least that's what I'm hearing from training camp.
Well, I like the idea. I like the, to kind of categorize those guys as playmakers. And that, to me, is what was missing last year from the Niners. And stone me if you want, but I'm sorry, Christian McCaffrey was not a playmaker last year. He was an unbelievable playmaker 2 years prior. But I get it. He touched the ball a lot, but was he really a playmaker? Kittle was hurt a lot last year. Juwan Jennings makes tough catches, no doubt. But was he really a playmaker who could turn something into something big? And now without Pearsall and obviously Ayuk, and Mike Evans is another one. He's a hell of a receiver. Is he a playmaker anymore? And, that's kind of what I want to see with the 49ers. And I think you might be right. Stribling could be their player that could be their most explosive player at times during the season.